From the towering Wasatch Mountains of the American Southwest, we welcome you to this episode of Undiscovered Utah. This show focuses on the mysteries that surround the rugged, difficult, and sometimes deadly American Southwest. I'm your host, JB, and tonight we're talking about one of my favorite vacation spots in all of Utah. We talked about some of the history of this location in our very first episode. But tonight, we're going to focus on this perfect base camp for adventure. Let me tell you something. If you're looking for the perfect spot to set up your base camp for your vacation, and you're the type of person that loves adventure, this place is heaven on earth. Whether you enjoy camping or staying in a hotel, there are many options to choose from. Are you into off-roading? Do you like mountain biking? How about playing on huge sand dunes that are the color of pink coral, surrounded by huge green ponderosa pine trees? Maybe you're a hiker and would love to hike to a location where the ground looks like the waves of an ocean, but it's solid rock. Or do you have what it takes to enter the belly of the dragon? Kanab, Utah makes the perfect place to set up your base camp to see all of this and a ton more. So, where is Kanab? Kanab is about halfway between St. George, Utah, and the Grand Canyon Dam of Lake Powell. Kanab does not get as busy as St. George or Moab, but offers the same types of adventures and activities as these more popular and crowded vacation destinations. Don't get me wrong, Kanab can still get very busy, especially on holiday weekends. Kanab is growing in popularity as more and more people discover what this beautiful town has to offer. Tonight I'm going to tell you about some of the possible activities you can enjoy while visiting Kanab. All of these places you can easily drive to from Kanab. Enjoy your day and be back in Kanab in time for dinner. Speaking of dinner, let's start off by talking about my favorite places to eat in Kanab. Now, just because these are my favorites doesn't mean that they will be your favorites. Do your homework and find a place that meets your style of food and your budget. If my wife would let me, I would eat every meal at Houston's Trails End restaurant in Kanab. I really like their food. Now, this is not a fancy place. This is more of a place for families to gather after a day of adventure. This rustic restaurant serves good old home cooking food, served up by young folk packing six-shooters. This helps encourage the customers to be kind to the hired help. Houston's offers a large menu with options to satisfy just about everyone's liking. My personal favorite is their world-famous chicken fried steak. It's big and delicious. But make sure you save room for dessert. Their pies are to die for. If you're too full to eat it there at the restaurant, you can get it to go and enjoy it as a late-night snack. If you're in the mood for someplace a little more refined and upscale, try the Iron Horse. This is a little more expensive, and they are known for their great steaks, burgers, and ribs. If you're in the mood for good Mexican food, you gotta try Escobar's on the east side of town. This is not a fancy restaurant. It's not a big restaurant. It is actually very small, but the food is very good, and this place is always jam-packed. Most likely you will have to wait for a table. Be patient. Now, if you get a sweet tooth, and I happen to have 32 of them, make sure you stop in at the soda fountain. This is connected to the Kanab drugstore. They have really good ice cream, and like my grandmother always used to say, there's always room for dessert. Okay, forgive me, but I'm still on a sweet tooth kick. If you like freshly baked banana bread, you have to stop in at Ron's Fresh Bake. You will love it. Many people get a loaf every morning while visiting Kanab for their breakfast. Ron also makes a mean cookie. There are a few eating places in Kanab that I would avoid as if my life depended on it. No, I'm not going to get into where these places are or what they're called. I was always taught if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. From the Kanab area, you can easily visit Zion's National Park. You would enter the park from the east entrance. You can listen to the episode we did on Zion's National Park for more information about visiting the park. Suffice it to say that Kanab is well within driving distance to the park. Have you ever entered into the belly of a dragon? Well, here is your chance. 17 miles north of Kanab is a trailhead to the belly of the dragon. Be sure to bring your camera. This trail is a short hike to the entrance. You have to step down into a somewhat deep ravine. If you're young, it will be super easy to navigate. If you're a bit more seasoned, like I am, you might need a little assistance to get down and back out of the ravine. Raging water has carved this unique sandstone tunnel, and it looks like the belly of a dragon from the inside. The tunnel is not very long, and you can see daylight at both ends. However, you will exit the same way you entered the tunnel. This is a safe and easy hike for both young and old alike. The only issue is getting in and out of the ravine. Do you want to hike an incredibly beautiful red sandstone slot canyon? Well, there is one of the best just outside Kanab called Peekaboo. Now, there is another famous slot canyon in Utah called Peekaboo that is in the Grand Staircase National Monument. They are not the same slot canyon. The Kanab Peekaboo Slot Canyon trailhead is just off US 89, 11 miles north of Kanab. There is a 4x4 road that you can drive right to the entrance of the Slot Canyon. However, the sand along this road can get very deep, and many people try to drive this road and get stuck in the deep, soft sand. It is nearly futile to try to dig your way out. Once you're stuck until someone comes by that can pull you out. Just because they might be able to pull you out doesn't mean that they will stop and try. The reason is, if they stop to help, they are more likely to get stuck themselves. So, how are you supposed to get to the Slot Canyon? Well, one option is to hike. It's about a 4-mile hike with limited shade and deep red sand. It takes about an hour and a half to hike the trail each way. There are guide services in Kanab that will drive you to the entrance of the canyon for a fee, or you can rent a side-by-side and drive there yourself. The next attraction on our list is the Coral Pink Sand Dunes State Park. This is a massive playground surrounded by beautiful red rock and tall green ponderosa pine trees. Motorcycles, ATVs, and side-by-sides rule this area. However, if you just want to stop and enjoy a picnic and let the kids roll down a massive sand dune, there's no better place. Another popular sport at the sand dunes is snowboarding down the dunes. At the visitor center, you can rent boards and try this fun activity. You can also rent side-by-sides at the state park. There is a big camping area, and you can drive off-road toys right from your campsite. The dunes are always changing, and the wind redistributes the sand in beautiful waves. It is vital that you know what's on the other side of the dune before you go flying over the top. You don't want to run into anyone else, and you certainly don't want to free fall hundreds of feet and bust your machine up and yourself. Flags are required on all vehicles. The further you get away from the visitor center, the softer the sand gets, and any machine can become stuck. So pay attention to the consistency of the sand. Oh, one other thing. There is a Bigfoot somewhere within the park. If you see the big guy, and if you're lucky enough to snap a picture that's not too blurry, be sure to let the visitor center know about it. Have fun and be safe. High above the canyon wall are a series of caverns and caves that are a very fun sightseeing location. They are known as the Sand Caves, and again are right along Highway 89 north of Kanab. There is a parking area just off the main road, and then it's a short hike, but kind of steep, up to the caves. Again, be sure to bring a camera. Once you reach the caves, you might think that you could discover the next Dead Sea Scroll. Well, that's a few of the sights to see on the north side of Kanab. There are many that I just don't have time to share tonight, maybe in another episode. Now let's venture to the south and east of Kanab. As you head south out of Kanab, it doesn't take long until you cross the state line into Arizona and into the town of Fredonia. In Fredonia, you can stay to the left on Highway 89 and head toward the entrance to the Grand Canyon, or you can turn to the right and take Highway 389. That will eventually loop back into Utah. Along 389 is the Pipe Springs National Monument. This remote national monument overlooks the Arizona Strip. This site was once a mission of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for producing cheese. The Arizona Strip made the perfect cattle grazing land for the creation of the Pipe Springs mission. This spring had been an important site for native people for centuries before Mormon pioneers arrived. In 1866, the Paiute, Navajo, and Apache tribes in the area joined with the Ute tribe in the Black Hawk War. Pipe Springs was raided by the native tribes. A few years later, a fort was built right on top of the spring. In 1873, the fort and a nearby ranch was purchased by Brigham Young for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and the mission was formed. Cheese from this location was shipped all over the Utah Territory. Today you can tour the old fort, and many of the old buildings are still standing. It's out of the way, but worth the visit. Do you folks remember the old TV show called Gunsmoke? The one with Marshal Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty? And Doc, and don't forget Festus. I still enjoy watching the old reruns. And even though the basic premise of the show was about Marshal Dillon, who had it real bad for Miss Kitty, a madam who ran the local whorehouse in the town's most popular saloon. Even with that, it teaches much better morals than just about any show today, except for, well, The Chosen. So why am I on this tangent of Gunsmoke? Well, it was filmed just east of Kanab in Johnson's Canyon. The old movie set is still standing, at least it was last time I was there. It's located about 5 miles north of where you turn off Highway 89 into Johnson's Canyon. The movie set is on private land, but it is easy to see from the road. Don't trespass. You're in Utah and you might get shot. Johnson's Canyon has a lot more to offer than the old movie set. It is a beautiful drive through this very scenic canyon. If you go back and listen to our very first episode, you will discover what else is up this canyon. This is a great ride in the evening and is paved for most of the canyon. Many places in Utah make you feel like you're visiting another planet. The next three places certainly qualify. Take the Wah-Weep Hoodoos, for example. Now, we all love Bryce Canyon with its thousands of red rock hoodoos, but Wah-Weep hoodoos are truly bizarre. Quoting the Utah Geological Survey description of the site, quote, Mother Nature's erosive artistry has left several groups of divine pearly white towers capped with brown mushroom-like tops nuzzled in several coves for off-the-beaten-path hikers. Yes, it is a bit of a hike to this location, but one you will remember fondly. On the border of Utah and Arizona, near Lake Powell, are two sites that will blow your mind. The first location you have most likely seen on posters, screensavers, and in ads. That's because it is a photographer's dream come true. Due to the fragile nature of this location, you must obtain a permit from the BLM, and only 20 people a day are allowed into this amazing site. It is called the Wave. Once you secure your permit to the Wave, and believe me, it's much easier to secure a seat on a Virgin Galactic voyage into space than it is to get a permit into the Wave. But once you do, you will need to hike about 6 miles round trip to access the Wave. In the past 5 years, 5 people have died hiking to or from the Wave. There is no trail to the Wave, so you better be able to use a map and a compass or have a mobile GPS unit. And I will say it again, this is the Utah desert. It gets very hot during the day, and this is a long hike with a lot of up and downs. You need to bring plenty of water, enough to hike to the location, see the site, and hike back. Also near the Wave is another area called Coyote Buttes North. If you go to the trouble of getting a permit to see the Wave, you really should also take the time to see the rest of Coyote Buttes North. Visit the Wave in the morning and Coyote Buttes in the afternoon. This will allow you to capture the best photos. Oh, and be aware that it costs $9 to apply for a permit each time. Now, there is another location that is similar to the Wave and Coyote Buttes North. I personally like it as much, if not more. You don't need a permit to visit this location, and the hike from the trailhead to the location is about 100 yards. Not too many people visit this location because they are hell-bent on going to the Wave, and this is an extremely remote place. The road to this location is very long and very sandy. There are no developed trails within the White Pocket. You are free to explore wherever you like, but with that freedom comes responsibility. You are on your own out here. You are fully responsible for your own safety. If you get stuck or lost or, heaven forbid, injured, it's your responsibility to get help. It is not the responsibility of the BLM or emergency services. If this makes you nervous, I highly recommend finding a guide service in Kanab to take you to the White Pocket. But wow, this place is cool. You will love it. If you want a hike that is one of the most iconic hikes in the world, and it might be the longest slot canyon in the world, then Buckskin Gulch is your ticket. This slot canyon is an amazing 16 miles long and is an incredibly beautiful slot canyon and is located in the Grand Staircase National Monument. Hiking this slot canyon will challenge you with obstacles like rock jams, pools, quicksand, and the potential for flash floods. If that sounds a little too much for your liking, then a day hike option via Wire Pass Trail is moderately easy and may be more your kind of adventure. Don't worry, it will still be an adventure, and one you should definitely add to your to-do list. Permits are required for Buckskin Gulch for day use and night use, but are much easier to obtain than permits for the Wave. Kanab is the center of what is called Utah's Outback. I have really just shared a few of the adventures that await those that visit Kanab. There are many others like the North Rim of the Grand Canyon, Horseshoe Bend, the Paria Town Site, the Great Western Trail, Bryce Canyon National Park, the Maze Rock Art Site, and the list goes on and on and on. When you reach Kanab, your very first stop should be at the Kane County Information Center in the middle of town on US 89. Chances are you will meet my old friend Bob, or one of the other friendly workers who can help you plan your amazing adventure. If you're a fan of the Kanab area, drop me an email and tell me what your favorite activities are when you visit Kanab. We would love to hear from you. You can email us at info@undiscoveredutah.com. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Just search for Undiscovered Utah. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Undiscovered Utah. Join me next week as I share more about the Great Southwest. Good night, everybody.